Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps, to my channel, Slime & Slashers, where, we talk about everything from 80s and 90s nostalgia to horror movies and books and beyond. Today's video, it is a video where we're going to talk about both books and movies. This is my October favorite, where I will talk about all of my favorite reads and watches from the month of October. Welcome back, guys! If you're new here, hi! I am Kelsi, and I am the face of Slime & Slashers. I don't know what's wrong with me today, I'm hyper. But thank you so much for stopping by. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy any kind of nostalgic content, Halloweenish content, horror content, or just you like to have fun, because I like to have fun too. So join me, subscribe, that would really mean a lot. And if you're back, and you've been here before, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys too. Without further ado, let's go into the favorites. And this was inspired by a favorites video that I just saw Amy do. I like the idea of like her calling out her favorites versus talking about every single book she read and every single thing she watched. So I'm gonna do the same thing because I did vlog for the entire month of October. So if you want to hear about all the other books, including other standout books that were like 4.5 stars, you could check out all of my October vlogs because I did vlog for every single week, not only of October, but for all of my event, Halloween-a-thon, which of course was a readathon, a watch-a-thon, and an activity-a-thon, online, free and open to everybody, and it was so much fun! So we're starting off with books, and I will have timestamps below if you want to skip to the movies, but starting off with my reading, just to give you an overview of how much I did read, and then we'll go into the faves. So total books read, including some picture books, was 28 books total. I read over 4,000 pages, approximately 4,309 to be specific. I listened to around 2,000 minutes of audio, and I had an average rating of 4.4. So that means I found some freaking bangers in October, and honestly, I had so many good reads in October. It was insane. Lots of 5 stars, lots of 4.5 stars. It was a really enjoyable month for me. I had so much fun. I listened to 9 books on audio. I read an ebook. I read 14 books physically, and remember that does count those picture books, which, you know, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. It's not too hard to read those, you know. And then 4 books I read, a mixture of reading with my eyes and listening on audio. 8 of my reads were adult books, 13 were children's books, hence the picture books. 7 were middle grade, and I didn't have any YA books, which is kind of surprising. I thought there was more. Alright, now for the favorites. I'm going to give you a list of 5 5-star favorites that I found in October! One is a reread, so let's start with that one. My favorite reread of the month, and my only reread of the month, but definitely a favorite in terms of an all-time favorite book, was Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney. One of my friends here on YouTube, but he is a fantastic author. And I promise you that the book is good. I stand by my recommendation because it's not just because we're friends that I love this book. It is truly a wonderful book for the season. It is a collection of short stories. I don't always love short story collections, but Autumn Crow honestly really works for me, and it's worked for a lot of other people. It's fantastic stories all set within the town of Autumn Crow. So all the stories are connected together in this way because they take place in the said town of Autumn Crow. And I just had a great time rereading it. 5 stars, just as amazing as the first time, and I also appreciated more things that I didn't even pick up on the first time. And now it's available on audio, so keep that in mind for future reference if you ever want to check out this in the future. The audiobook was really fantastic. Next favorite, In the Company of Witches, the first book I read officially in October, and it was a banger. 5 stars. It was so enjoyable. I did not know that I could like a cozy mystery this much, but this one blew me away. The characters were amazing. The ending was so emotional and it made me cry, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was such a good time. There was a lot of witchcraft in it, or at least talk of witchcraft in it, and I liked that little paranormal / magical element to it, so that added to it for me personally. And the mystery was fun too. The mystery wasn't the main draw for me though, it was really the characters, the setting, and also the really wonderful kind of autumn vibes as well. And I want to give a big, huge shout out to Erin Megan. I love her. She has a wonderful YouTube channel. Please, please check out her channel if you haven't heard of her before. Thanks to her, I had this book on my radar because I don't think if I would have checked out her video where she was talking about books she was eager to get to for spooky season, I would have even picked this up. So thank you, Erin! I'm so glad that I also loved it. P.S. Erin also gave it 5 stars. Next up, I would like to talk about and highlight the book Cackle by Rachel Harrison. It was my very first book I read from Rachel Harrison, but it will not be my last because I had such a great time. This was another one, kind of like In the Company of Witches, that had spooky, magical vibes. However, it was really more about the relationships and the characters. And so I found that was kind of a consistent theme with my reading in October. Just a lot of books that focused on characters really worked for me. And Cackle was one of those books. It is following this girl who leaves a long-term relationship and has to kind of figure out what she loves and figure out who she is on her own without that other person. And she learns to be more independent, and a big part of the story is her relationship and newly found friendship with this woman. And this woman may not just be like a normal, just ordinary woman. She might have some powers? Maybe, maybe not. And also there's a freaking cute-ass spider named Ralph. And that was one of my favorite parts of the entire book. I freaking loved Ralph. Amazing. Very cozy audiobook. What a great time. Easy 5 stars. And I cannot wait to read more from Rachel Harrison. Next up, my favorite middle grade read for October was Small Spaces, the first book in the Small Spaces series by Catherine Arden. I am so glad I finally got to this. What took me so long? It was just as good as everyone said, and thank goodness, because there was another middle grade book that I checked out in October that everyone loves that I did not love. And I think a large part of that was due to the audiobook narration. I just did not like how scared and also kind of judgmental the main character was about her parents. And overall, like I said, just how scared she was in general. She just sounded so shaky and like nervous the whole time, and I couldn't take it. It was too much for me. But Small Spaces, it actually delivered. I actually loved it. Whereas the other book, it just didn't live up to my expectations. But I'm so glad Small Spaces did, and I will be continuing on with the series literally next month in December, and I'm really, really jazzed to do so. And last favorite book, but not least, because this is actually my very favorite new read from October, and that is Carrick Glynn. Thank you so much to Leslie, one of my viewers here, who commented that I really should try to get to Carrick Glynn in October. I appreciate you so much giving me that last nudge I needed, because Carrick Glynn was such an unexpected hit for me. In fact, I would go as far as saying it is an underrated hidden gem, because nobody's talking about this book. However, this book had amazing October vibes and also great discussion about Halloween and the love for Halloween. So we're following this boy and his group of friends. It's kind of part coming of age, and then the last half, after you get through the first 60%, which is very coming of age heavy, then you get into like the folk horror action. So last 40% folk horror, first 60% coming of age, like, you know, Halloween autumn vibes and Halloween love expression, all of that. So if you don't like coming of age, it might not fully work for you, because it does take some time for that horror to kick in. But trust me, if you do like coming of age and you don't mind kind of waiting and getting invested in characters, all of that is worth it. There is a payoff, and it is a good payoff in my opinion. I was blown away by the ending. I thought it really culminated and did some really unique things when it came to the horror, and also great horror imagery. I just had a fantastic time, and I cannot say enough good things. I will be trying to read more from this author, because this just took me by surprise, and I'm so glad I got to it. Like I said, I think it's my favorite book of the entire month, and I do want to shout it from the rooftops so that maybe other people can check it out for next October, because I do think it's a perfect October read. I would wait for October, since there's so much great discussion of, like, you know, love for Halloween and what Halloween means to younger people and why it's so special, and all of that was just so fantastic. Really, really good time. I even had some parts where I almost cried. I didn't officially cry, but I almost did, and I was like, oh my god! So yeah, awesome book. Thank you once again, Leslie, by the way, for pushing me to get to that book. Yes! Alright, and now let's talk about some picture books I read. I'm going to show you this graphic, which shows all of the picture books I read, and this includes some books that I got to in September. So although I'm talking about my October reads, my October favorites, I did want to show all the picture books throughout all of Halloween-a-thon that I got to. So out of all these books you see on the screen right now, I would have to say my very favorite freaking picture book type of story would be the Simon book, Simon and Chester Super Detectives. These books are so cute. Now I've read like 3 of them, and of course this all comes after the first book I read, which was last October in the series. It was called Sir Simon Super Scarer. That was so freaking cute, and every book in the series has been amazingly cute, so I can't recommend this series enough. It's just adorable, and I really want to own all of them because I've checked out the ones I read in October from the library. Just so adorable, and I can't wait to read more in the series. I love Simon and Chester so much. I do want to give a special shout out though to another ghost theme picture book that I loved, which was Gustavo, the shy ghost. I loved him. Gustavo was a cutie. There was also some other books about befriending ghosts that I really liked, including How to Make Friends with a Ghost, and I read one in September called Little Ghost Makes a Friend that was also really cute. So those 2 were also very adorable, but I really enjoyed all the picture books. Even the ones that weren't like the best picture books ever, I still had a great time. It was still a thematic way to celebrate the season, and I highly recommend checking out your library to see if they have seasonal reads like that in picture book form, because it could really add to a thematic celebration, and I think I'm going to try to do that every year moving forward, not only with Halloween, but with other holidays like Christmas and stuff. Moving on to movies and like 2 TV show episodes. So I will talk about favorites, but I want to overall start off with some stats. And I will say, if you want to hear some in-depth thoughts about my movie watching, I had a great live stream chat with my friend Kat over at the channel Kat's Novel Adventures. Check out her channel. She's fantastic. I love her. We do a lot of content together because I love her. Like I said, I adore her. She's great. But speaking of the chat, it's very long, but we really dove into a lot of movies we watched, and we didn't give spoilers. So I highly recommend that, and stay tuned because we will be having a Terrifier 3 and overall complete Terrifier chat with spoilers. So if you're still planning to watch the new Terrifier because it is Christmas themed, we will be waiting till after Christmas is over, and sometime in January we will be having this spoiler themed chat. So please keep an eye out, and if you're at all interested, I hope you will tune in if you're available to watch. But again, I will link that chat where we talked about a lot of movies without spoilers, including Terrifier 3, down below. Alright, so originally on my movie list, I had 50 movies, and that is a lot. I did not get to all 50, however, I did end up getting to 32 movies, and that's pretty damn good in my opinion. And I also watched 2 TV episodes. Again, not too bad, not too shabby. So I did have quite a few rewatches on my list that I was able to get to, but I also had a ton of movies I had never seen before as well that I was able to watch for the first time. So I'm going to give you my top 5 favorite new watches and my top 5 favorite rewatches. It's very hard for rewatches though, because I literally loved all my rewatches, but we'll start with rewatches, even though it's harder. Alright, so number 5, I loved rewatching Phantasm 2. And it was a lot of fun with a group because I played it as a Discord group watch party, and lots of people had never seen it before, so that was enjoyable. Number 4 favorite rewatch would be The Hills Have Eyes, the 2007 remake. I actually watched the original version for the first time ever, and the original is from the 70s, and it's actually directed by Wes Craven, but I didn't actually like it very much. I love the remake so much more. It's so eerie. It still creeps me out after I've seen it like hundreds upon hundreds of times. But even though I've seen it so much, it was still an enjoyable time to go back to it because it's so effective, and I don't know, there's something about it I like. Alright, number 3 favorite rewatch, Something Wicked This Way Comes. This movie is so good. I wish it was streaming somewhere so people could enjoy it, because right now, as far as I know, I think the main way to watch it is to own it on DVD. But like I said, hopefully one day it will be up for all people to stream because it is so good and so fall-centric. It's such a perfect depiction of fall, honestly. Second favorite rewatch was Troll 2, which was one of my official movie recommendations for Halloween-a-thon, and it was so fun because I got to watch it for the first time with a group of people who had never seen it before because I played it as a watch party, and it was so funny to see people's reactions. It literally just made it even more enjoyable and brought it to another level because it's a very cheesy movie. If you've never seen it before, it's very, very cheesy. And my number one rewatch is the movie Possession from 1980, starring Sam Neill, and it's such a well-acted movie, so dramatic, so fantastic. Had a great time. All right, now for my 5 favorite new watches. Number 5, demonic toys. Ridiculous, silly about these group of toys that are alive and I guess a little demonic. There's a freaking baby who just hurls insults at everyone and anyone, and I love him. I love him. There were so many funny parts in this movie. It was just a zany good time. Don't go in expecting, like, grade A wonderful acting and this to be a gem of cinema. It is not, but is definitely a fun horror movie. Number 4, favorite new watch, Terrifier 3. I had such a great time watching this in the theater for the first time with my friend Kat, who I already mentioned from Kat's Novel Adventures. It was just a great experience, and then talking about how we felt about the movie afterwards added to it, so I just think there's a lot of layers that make this movie a part of my top favorites lists. It's not just kind of black and white to where, oh, it's just because the movie is fun. No. The movies are actually quite hard to get into when we talk about all the Terrifier movies. They're very hard to watch. There's a lot of gore. Sometimes it goes over the top. But what I think that this new one did very well was make you feel very invested in the characters, continue on with the lore, and laying little breadcrumbs about the lore of Art the Clown. So I'm really intrigued to see the next entry, so I'm excited. My number 3 favorite new watch, City of the Living Dead. There is a scene in this movie that made me want to throw up really bad. It was really gross. But this is a zombie type of movie, but it also has some supernatural, paranormal elements. Like there's some woman in the movie who's a psychic who kind of knows that there's a problem going on in the city, and her and some people have to go to the city, find it, and try to stop it if they can. Because a whole bunch of people are rising from the dead, essentially. And this is a movie directed by Lucio Fulci. I love him. He's an Italian horror director. And he's also directed giallo movies. Absolutely adore him. Love his style. And this movie was really, really well done. Number 2 favorite new watch was Longlegs! And I didn't even plan on watching this movie in October. This wasn't even on my original list. But I was hanging out with my friends Cameron and Benjamin. You could find Cameron over at the channel Library Macabre. Please check out his channel if you haven't done so. He is fantastic. If you like me, I guarantee you will be able to like his content because we have very similar channels, but he is all around amazing, and I love him and Benjamin. And they were like, Kelsi, have you seen Longlegs? I said, no. They're like, wanna watch it? I was like, what if? Sure, why not? And I loved it. Parts made me jump, also parts made me laugh. It was really not what I expected at all. And I think the best way to go into the movie is going in blind if you've never seen it, because that's how I went in, and I had a great time. But if you go in with a lot of expectations, or thinking there's gonna be a very clear plot, I think you could dislike it. There's a lot of things that are kind of unanswered or up in the air or not explained. I don't know. I liked it because it had like an artsy quality about it too. And also the performances were sometimes cheesy, but also sometimes unsettling. So it had this really great mix of unsettling, but also campiness that just works for me sometimes. It doesn't work for everyone, but for me, I don't know. I guess that's the kind of stuff I like. And finally, my favorite new watch, dun 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 dun, drum roll, Inferno, directed by Dario Argento. And this shouldn't be surprising to anyone who's watched my channel recently. I have been on a real big Italian horror kick lately, including specifically giallo movies, but outside of giallos, there are other Italian horror movies, and Inferno would fall into that category. It's not a giallo movie, let's say. It is Italian horror, though, and what Dario Argento does in his horror is wonderful in terms of the aesthetics. I always love his aesthetics. It's always artsy, over the top. The colors are amazing. Inferno was no different. I had such a blast watching it for the first time. I would love to rewatch it maybe next year even, because I just think it's kind of a slow burn in a way, and it's also kind of a Suspiria follow-up. If you've ever watched Dario Argento's Suspiria, this one is semi-related, but you don't have to have seen Suspiria to watch it. It would make sense if you've seen the movie, or if you plan on seeing the movie. When you see the beginning, you'll understand why it's even vaguely connected to Suspiria, but I absolutely loved it. And even though it's got slow parts, I thought, the mystery that unfolded, it was worth it. And the horror that comes in, heavy hitting at the end, was also worth it. So, great tension building. And then when the horror hit, it hit heavy and it hit really, good. I don't know if it doesn't sound elegant at all, but it just worked for me, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Alright guys, those are all my favorite movies, favorite picture books, favorite overall reads for October. What did you enjoy about October? Did you participate in a Halloween-a-thon? If so, please let me know what you love down below. I'd love to hear, and I just love to hear about all the things you did. In terms of activities, really quick, I think my favorite thing I did was diamond paint, but also my favorite overall thing is when I went and visited my friends Benjamin and Cameron, and I do have a vlog of our adventures together and our meetup, and it was so much fun. I had such a blast with them. We did all kinds of fall things, including going to this epic frickin' pumpkin patch. Oh, it was so amazing. We had so much fun. So yeah, I would say that's my #1 favorite activity, but if we had to talk about like a mundane activity, diamond painting, of course. I'm always a big fan of diamond painting, and I did some seasonally thematic diamond painting, specifically in October, which was fun. Alright guys, but for this time, that is it for me. I am actually going to leave you guys with a little montage of all the wonderful Halloween cards I was sent, because I did a card exchange with my Patreon members. So I sent them cards, and we all sent each other cards. So here's some of the cards I received. And till next time guys, you know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye guys.